Sharp, and my partner is Jarrett LaPerry, and we did our presentation on oral and nonverbal communication in cross-cultural environments.
The business environment for the 21st century is expanding, and it now includes people from multiple cultures, from multiple countries, all around the world. It takes special skills to communicate with these different cultures, and so you got to keep in mind that courtesy and respect will help establish a good foundation for effective communication between them. Communication is simply the act of transferring information from one place to another through a medium or a channel. Although this is a simple definition, we think about how we may communicate. The subject becomes a lot more complex than it seems at first. There are numerous categories of communication. You have oral, written, verbal, nonverbal, and you have formal and informal. More of these can take place at one time. Like oral communication, it's also like you hold a sign up, that's considered oral communication, like stop sign oral communication. And oral communication is simply the process of expressing information or ideas by the word of mouth. Then, advantages of this comes in handy because, like, if you're doing face-to-face or, like, anything like that, like talking, you get quick feedback. You can read someone's body languages when it's face-to-face. Face-to-face is the #1 way to communicate from person to person. Because you can see, like, if they're leaning back, like, they're scared or nervous. You can see if they're, like, attacking, like, feeling good, confident. You can see all that and read that through one's expressions, which will be expressed later. Good oral communication, that ensures that you are verbally communicating effectively with cross-cultural environments, and that there are a few steps everyone should take. In any college class, professors teach the importance of good oral communication skills. You go to any interview, they ask you, well, how well are you orally communicating with others? How well do you work in a team? Out of my 5 classes, one of them is math. The other 4 are management, accounting, all that. I have to give a speech in every single one of them. And there's rules that you need to follow whenever you give a speech. Like, you need to slow down when you speak. You need to speak clearly and concisely. You need to keep everything simple. Like, you don't want to use, like, too big of words in case someone doesn't quite understand. And you want to maintain respect and courtesy in case there's people from other cultures. And you want to avoid slang or any humor, which will be expressed later as well. And you want to ask for feedback if you feel comfortable enough doing so.
Okay, so while everything that Jarrett said is very important, it's also important to remember that our nonverbal communication, such as like our facial expressions, our gestures, the way we stand, our posture, our tone of voice, all of those speak very loudly when you're communicating. So the definition of nonverbal communication, it's just communication through sending and receiving wordless cues. So all these pictures, this cute little boy, those would all be considered nonverbal ways of communicating. So a few ways that you can go wrong when you're communicating nonverbally would be all these things listed: gestures, your facial expressions, your touch, how much space you give somebody, your eye contact. So a few examples of gesture would be in America, this sign, I guess it would be considered the okay sign. You would give this to somebody if you were saying that you were good or you were okay. But in Brazil, this sign would be equivalent to flipping somebody off. So you definitely wouldn't want to use that there.
And this sign in America, like you go to Texas, it means Longhorns, like the university. You go to a concert, it means rock on. My family's from Italy, and where we're from, if you do that, that means your spouse is cheating on you. So that's, like I said earlier, that's going to be slang. And you don't want to use that in case there's someone from that culture in there, because he will have no idea what you're talking about.
That's true. Okay, and another example would be the peace sign, or like this, whatever. A lot of people use that in like pictures, and we use that a lot in the United States. But in South Africa or Australia and the United Kingdom, the peace sign is considered very offensive, so you definitely would not want to use that if you were trying to non-verbally communicate in one of those countries. So another way would be through your facial expressions. So the human face is extremely expressive, and you're able to express and portray a lot of different emotions without even saying anything. I know for me, I'm very expressive. My face is very expressive, so I have to remember that when I'm in situations like where I'm uncomfortable or maybe like a surprise, because you can read what I'm thinking on my face. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, touch. So we communicate a lot through touching, and if you think about a message that if you were to give somebody a weak handshake, that would be a form of touching, but that would also be it could be a very insulting way to non-verbally communicate, because if you were to get a good, strong handshake, that would kind of symbolize respect, and you would prefer that versus something that was very like weak and limp. So also space. In America, we typically like to give each other a lot of space when we're talking. You don't want to get up and crowd into somebody's personal bubble. But in other countries, in other cultures, talking really closely together and being in each other's personal space is ideal. People do that. It can portray affection, or you're being attracted to somebody. But here in America, it may be a sign of like aggression, or you're dominating against the other person. So you just have to be careful with that. And also eye contact. So your visual sense is very dominant. For most people, eye contact is especially important when you're communicating. You want to make sure that you make eye contact to reassure people that you're listening, and using eye contact is a good way of letting somebody know that you're talking directly to them, so that they should listen and receive the message that you're giving. So overall in communication, there verbally and non-verbally, there's some things that you might want to overcome, some barriers that you need to try to overcome when you're doing business, personally doing professional business, or just personally communicating with other people and from other cultures. So one of these things would be conducting meetings to expose employees to other cultures. In global companies, effective cross-cultural communication enables businesses to run more smoothly. So by running meetings to expose your employees to other cultures, you kind of introduce employees to who they'll be working with and how to work together in a very like non-threatening environment, which can typically enable a good long-term working relationship. Another way would be to provide workshops, tips, and techniques for communicating effectively in cross-cultural environments. So people act according to the values of their own culture. That's something that's very important. You don't want to have an ethnocentric viewpoint. You don't want to think that your culture is dominant. You want to be able to look at everybody's culture and take something away from each of it. So other people from other cultures might interpret our behavior differently, as we do other people interpret other people's behaviors. So practicing some strategies like active listening. You can paraphrase what you're trying to say to ensure that they're understanding you, and you can use different forms of communication, such as written or audio or visual, and that can enhance the employee's involvement in ensuring that conflicts don't arise between other cultures due to your lack of awareness. So another one would be, you can mentor your employees to mediate conflicts related to cultural communication misunderstandings. So you can kind of just coach your employees to mediate conflicts that are related to cultural misunderstandings. You just provide opportunities for your employees to respond